Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're not just exploring a career, we're taking the plunge into a professional timeline that really maps out 2 decades of, well, revolution.
Total revolution.
Our mission is to look at the sources detailing the life and professional journey of the adult film legend Rebecca Bardoux, and we're kind of using her experience as our anchor point.
That's exactly it. Because when you look at her timeline, I mean, it spans from 1992, the analog, VHS-driven era, all the way through to social media and even stand-up comedy.
Right.
You realize this deep dive isn't really just about one performer's biography. It's about how the entire adult industry adapted, fractured, and, eventually went mainstream.
And we're going to be focusing on the sheer resilience and, I guess, business acumen it took to not just survive, but to thrive through all that. And we have to start with this one detail that just defines her career from day one. Bardoux entered the industry in 1992 at what was considered a relatively late age, 29.
Which is pretty unusual for the time.
It was. And this wasn't some naive jump. She was already a working professional. And she gets this immediate, almost prophetic warning from industry vets like Bill Margold and Nino Hartley.
A chilling warning, but so accurate. They told her flat out that her work does not go away.
Wow.
They predicted she would be 75 years old and her material would still be playing somewhere. And if you just pause on that for a second, that's a unique burden of permanence.
It really is. I mean, few people in any field have to grapple with the knowledge that every minute of their work life will be accessible forever.
Exactly.
And that burden, that permanence is heavy. And yet, the industry she entered sounds, frankly, like a chaotic, high-risk environment. Let's dig into that contrast between the unprofessional 90s and the really professional approach she chose.
Okay.
She was actually looking for feature credits for dancing, and that's what brought her to the VSDA convention in Vegas back in '92.
Her entry was, really calculated. She completely avoided the messy, low-paying amateur circuit and went straight into features. Very. And she was guided by Shawn Michaels for her first scene, and she noted he was super nice and didn't immediately try to solicit a scene in a hotel room.
Which kind of suggests that that was the norm, right? That kind of predatory behavior was just par for the course.
Sadly, it seems like it was.
That structural chaos must have been just relentless. I mean, the sources describe a brutal work schedule, 16 to 18 hours on set.
Doing 2 scenes a day, almost 7 days a week.
It sounds like an extremely demanding factory, and I wonder how much did that constant pressure paradoxically act as a sort of survival filter? Ensuring only those with extreme discipline, like Bardoux, could even succeed.
That's a key insight. I mean, only the extremely disciplined could maintain that pace. But alongside that physical demand, she witnessed this deeply unprofessional, often exploitative side of the business that was all about power dynamics.
You're talking about producers and directors requesting sexual favors.
Specifically a blowjob in exchange for the box.
And for listeners who might not know the term, the box means getting the cover photo, the main credit on the VHS box art.
And that placement directly translated into future work, into recognition. It was everything.
And she refused.
She refused. She said she lost a crucial box cover because another girl accepted the demand. And that one anecdote, it just speaks volumes about the early power dynamics. You were often forced to trade your integrity for visibility.
So the market was chaotic, but the personal risk was huge. How did the industry manage the health and safety side of things back then? I mean, we know in '92 they were filming bareback.
No condoms.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fascinating paradox. While the performance itself was high risk, there was already an internal regulatory environment.
Oh, really?
Yeah, testing was mandatory every 30 days at a specific medical clinic near her agent. Bardoux stressed that within that closed circle of performers, they respected each other. They took care to be clean.
So before any external mandates, there was a system of internal trust.
A critical, if, limited safety net.
Okay, let's shift gears. If the 90s was about this slow, gradual recognition, how did the move to the digital age just fundamentally break that business model?
The contrast is just jarring. I mean, in the 90s, no digital cameras. They used film that had to be developed.
Right.
It took 4 to 5 months for a DVD to hit the shelves. Magazine photos, another 3 months. Bardoux noted that for the first 4 to 6 months of her career, she could be totally anonymous.
Recognition was earned slowly. You built a career deliberately.
Exactly. Whereas now, fame is often instant. A new performer can upload a scene or stream live and boom, global visibility.
And that pace of recognition, it directly correlates with a massive cultural shift. Bardoux said that back in the 90s, it was absolutely not cool to be a porn star.
Not at all. They were actively avoided by mainstream media. They were socially isolated. She said they'd kept to ourselves.
But now you have what she calls the porn star rock star syndrome.
It's become acceptable, even celebrated, leading to this immediate high-visibility celebrity status, which, it raises a big question for us as a society.
What are the long-term consequences when a profession goes from stigmatized and hidden to glorified and instantly public in just 2 decades?
That's a huge question. And that same digital access affects privacy and safety. She talked about a rare physical stalker back in the 90s.
Required a drive to the police station to resolve it.
Right. But she says today, she has far more persistent problems, and they all stem directly from social media. She even observed that stalkers are getting lazier.
Lazier.
Yeah, leveraging online platforms for constant, low-effort harassment instead of, physical pursuit. The risk calculus for performers has totally changed.
And this rapid entry model, made possible by social media with its low barriers to entry, it might also be contributing to what she's observed as a difference in professionalism among some newer performers.
This is a really interesting point.
Yeah, she shared these very pointed observations about girls needing to be taught basic things, like how to douche or not even knowing what a pap smear is.
That lack of fundamental self-care understanding is a critical breakdown. It's a loss of that institutional knowledge that was passed down before.
And she connects it directly to specific high-risk performance types.
She does. Specifically, she connected the rise of what the industry calls cream pies.
Scenes with internal ejaculation where the semen stays visible.
Exactly. She connected the rise of those scenes with performers then wondering why they're getting infections.
So it suggests a huge break in that internal knowledge system. New performers are coming in so fast. Without the mentorship of the 90s, they miss out on critical health and safety info.
Which leads directly to preventable health issues.
Let's transition a bit from the industry mechanics to her unique contribution, because despite all that chaos, Bardoux carved out a very specific, lasting niche for herself.
Oh, absolutely. She landed in high-impact, award-winning roles right away. Things like Face Dance and the cult classic Sodomania 2.
And what's fascinating is that her whole aesthetic became an economic pivot point for the industry.
It really did. Producers like John Stagliano recognized that her look dark, blonde, soft, naturally curvy. It appealed to fans looking for a more realistic starlet.
A demographic that was being underserved at the time?
Completely. And according to the film teacher Harry Boris, this distinction changed the entire business. He credited her and Stagliano with basically inventing and mainstreaming the cougar MILF persona.
And making it glamorous.
Right. This wasn't just a category. It was a market segmentation strategy that led to the whole industry fracturing into all these specialized niches and fetishes.
That is a monumental legacy. She didn't just fit a trend, she catalyzed a massive shift toward specialization.
And she describes herself as an improv girl. Quick-witted. She said her style was perfect for the 90s, which she felt was all about glamour.
And that personal branding was so strong, it even dictated her views on things like body modification.
Right. Her firm stance against tattoos. She saw them as confused, temporary self-expression confusion.
Because she wanted to keep her skin soft and flawless. It's an interesting take on professional branding, valuing that untouched aesthetic as part of her market appeal.
It was a conscious choice to maintain a timeless brand. It contrasts so sharply with the heavily tattooed aesthetic that's common today.
And you see a similar divergence in how sexual niches have evolved. Bardoux claims she was one of the anal queens of the 90s.
And she frames it very differently than what we see now.
She does. She says that earlier vanilla anal sex was focused on making the act look authentic and enjoyable, creating content that ages well.
Versus today's extreme scenes, which she sees as just relying on shock value. She even said it showed a lack of creativity and maybe evidence of some serious personal issues.
She's really drawing a line between performance driven by chemistry and story and content driven purely by pushing boundaries.
It's less about the act itself and more criticism of the movie making when shock factor becomes the only selling point.
Okay, so let's move from her performance niche to her personal resilience and reinvention, because this career clearly came at a significant personal cost.
It did. She took necessary breaks, not just for vacation, but to clear your head because of these internal struggles, wrestling with the idea that what she was doing isn't right.
The sources confirm a heartbreaking personal detail about that. She took a 3-year break, moved to Northern California for a relationship.
And the man knew her profession beforehand.
Knew everything. And he ultimately broke up with her specifically because she was a porn star.
Just a staggering betrayal.
It is, to navigate all the demands and the risks of the industry, but then to lose a relationship because of the external stigma. It just underscores how immense the cultural cost still was.
Yet her response wasn't to retreat. It was reinvention and advocacy. She used her visibility to diversify. She became an outspoken critic of Proposition B in 2012.
Which was the legislation mandating condom use in adult films in LA County.
Exactly. And she did political lobbying. She spoke on KCRW Public Radio.
That's a huge shift, isn't it? Moving from being the subject of cultural stigma to becoming a political voice. How effective was that?
It was essential. As this high-profile, respected veteran who had personally navigated the pre-mandate health risks, she could speak directly about the impact of the legislation on performers.
She was speaking from lived experience.
Decades of it. It cemented her transition from performer to industry businesswoman and activist.
And her non-performance roles just exploded from there. Director of marketing for Biker Lube, a column for Adult Industry News, a weekly radio show.
She realized the power of her platform was not limited to the screen. And maybe the biggest reinvention psychologically came in 2013, at age 50.
Stand-up comedy.
Stand-up comedy.
I mean, transitioning from a highly physical, often nonverbal industry to one that requires raw psychological exposure and perfect comedic timing, that is a massive leap.
A huge leap. And at first she tried to rely on that quick wit, her improv girl persona. But she quickly learned how grueling stand-up is.
It's not the same muscle group.
Not at all. She acknowledged it's physically and psychologically exhausting and requires constant rehearsal to get a solid set.
But she had this incredible shield, didn't she? She said that after traveling the world performing naked and working high-rejection jobs like bill collections before porn, hecklers just do not bother her.
It's true. She developed this profound immunity to public rejection long before she ever hit the comedy stage. She brought an unparalleled level of mental armor to the comedy club.
And that successful, multifaceted career didn't go unrecognized. 3 Hall of Fame inductions, AVN, NightMoves, and XRCO.
A remarkable set of honors crowning a decades-long career. She officially retired in 2014.
So what does this all mean for us? I mean, the sources reveal this history of extreme professionalism, of resilience that was required to navigate an industry that completely changed around her.
For you, the learner, the core nugget here is that success and legacy, they aren't always defined by your initial choices or industry metrics. Her story is a masterclass in adaptation.
Going from analog celebrity to digital entrepreneur.
Continually pivoting and finding new ways to leverage her personal brand.
And that leads us to our final provocative thought for you to chew on. While she received the industry's highest honors, 3 Hall of Fame inductions, she cited her biggest reward as something else entirely.
It was a long, sweet, and humbling tribute written about her career by an anonymous Twitter user, some account called BBB something.
So she prioritized that personal, unsolicited recognition over the industry's highest awards.
Yeah. And what does that say about the nature of celebrity and accomplishment in our digital age?
When individual, heartfelt online recognition can eclipse formal institutional praise.
Exactly. It's something to think about. What forms of recognition truly define success for you personally in your own life?
A fascinating place to leave it. Thank you for joining us for the deep dive.
We'll see you next time.